Question 4. Integration of technology within my media studies coursework. I have chosen Google Sites to display my coursework because it offers a lot of features, tools, and functions. Like these content blocks you can see as an example. You can add text box, images, and even embed other websites and softwares into the website. There's also a lot of other functions here. However, a really good function that I like about Google Sites is that it has different pages where you can split everything into subgenres and categories, so everything will be really organized and in its own place. I found this really useful and a really good way to organize my work. But however, sometimes I found the website to have really limited movement, and all the text has to be moved into these little blocks and columns here, as you can see. And it also takes a pretty long time to stretch and to move, so that's a con for this website. Overall, it's really easy to use and beginner friendly. Google Sites can also be easily shared and accessed by peers and teachers. Next was my research page. I've mainly used Canva and Google Sites for this. The majority of the research page was made with only Google Sites, and no other embedded websites were used. After I scroll down for a bit, I will find some Canva presentations that I've worked on, but after that it's just more word and text. And I've also included the embedded where you can embed YouTube videos. A little self-criticism here. I feel like I used too much of Google Sites. I should have used other softwares like Padlet and Prezi, which will make this website more interesting. The next stage was the planning stage. I've used Prezi, Google Sheets, Google Sites, and Canva. This is the Prezi presentation that I have used to plan out influences and inspiration with my teammates. Each person was assigned to a different category. For example, I did editing and motion graphics, and other group members did different things. Prezi is really good to use when you have a lot of subtopics, like as you can see here. Everything in Prezi is laid out really well, and you can see everything clearly. I think Prezi has a really cool function where you can just zoom in into like an area and it takes you to a whole new page. You can also embed videos in the presentation. Next, we used Google Sheets, and the rest we used Google Sites and Canva. Here we used Canva for ideas for our film opening and planning ahead. This table here is screenshotted from Google Sheets. This is the Google Sheet that we use to plan our props, costumes, and locations. Here, as you can see, we have everything ticked because it has already been filmed and we already obtained every item that we needed. For the rest of planning, I have utilized Google Sites and I've used Canva again. This was originally written in Google Docs, but since it was not shareable to people without a school email, we copied the text and laid it out on a Canva presentation. I think it has a better layout and it's easier to look at than on a Google document too. Next was storyboarding and further planning. I used Procreate and Canva to create the storyboard, and Google Docs was to create the production schedule, and Google Sites was to assemble everything together. First, I drew the storyboard on Procreate, and then I exported it into Canva, where it was accessible to all my group members, so they could also help me type these small little texts. I decided to add the text in Canva. Even though Procreate has the text adding function, I didn't use it because it was too time consuming and it wasn't a collaborative software, so this was easier and a better and a better solution. And it made the process finish faster too, because it's a really easy drag and drop software here in Canva, and text, everything is laid out good, and as I mentioned earlier, it's collaborative and other members of the group can help me put in the text so it doesn't take too long. We also created the pitch of our film opening in Canva, and finally, in planning, we created the production schedule in Google Docs. We used Google Docs because it had a table feature and it can also be shared and easy to access by other group members. Production. In the production page, I didn't use anything much except for Google Sites and Canva. I also included embedded GIFs for the outcome of the finishing logo and YouTube links for the final outcome of the film opening. Here is the production page. As I mentioned earlier, I mainly use Google Sites for this, and I didn't really use any other software. I organized the pictures so it was in an interesting composition and easy to look at the pictures and read easily and understand each process we have to go through when filming our film opening. For our editing process, we used Adobe Premiere Pro and Adobe After Effects. We actually ended up not using Adobe After Effects at all because we used After Effects for one of the opening credits of the text, but then we didn't use it because it didn't look good and it was kind of unnecessary, so we changed the text and everything else. We used Premiere Pro because it is a professional software that people in the media industry use, and also because our editor was most familiar to the software. For the logo creation, I went through the steps of 4 softwares. The logo was originally created in Canva, and then we kept developing it until we had our final draft. After we decided on our final draft, I exported all the layers into Procreate, which is an animation and a drawing software. But I didn't use animation for this. Instead, I used Flipbookip because it's easy to use and it's also beginner friendly, but I have a lot of experience on this app, so that's why I decided to use this app too. That's the same for Alight Motion. I've been using it for a while and it has a lot of good features. First, I was going to make the flowers flow like it was in the water or flowing in the wind, but then I decided to not use that because it ended up to be too complicated and too time consuming. So I mainly used the Alight Motion for the fading in of the malt and entertainment text, and also the fade in and the fade out of the logo. That was done by using Alight Motion. Also, Google Drive is here because we had to share all the files with the editor. So we created a Google Drive file where it had all the files that the editor needed to edit the video. And then we also have other folders, subfolders in this file, like files we actually used in the opening, behind the scenes pictures, and sounds that was also for the opening. In this file, we also shared some pictures that our group members could use to put in their websites. Here is the editing process our editor had to go through. She first imported clips and then did the opening credits, made some effects, and more. This was a screenshot from Canva since I felt like I was using too much Google Sites. So I made a small presentation, but I didn't link it here because it was only one slide, so I only screenshotted it and put it into. Here is the embedded GIF and the embedded YouTube video I was talking about earlier. Finally, it's the evaluation. For question 1 of evaluation, I used Canva because it was a really easy drag and drop software where I could rearrange text and images really good and really nicely. I also chose Canva because it had a lot of graphics and elements where I could add like this decoration film here and other things. Canva also has good transitions when going to the next slide. I'm pretty proud of this analyzation of our film opening because it's really easy to look at, to read, and to understand. For question 2, I have used Prezi because, as I said, that Prezi is really good when you have subgenres. And here, question 2 was focused on target audience and distribution. Prezi is also easy to use, and I like it so much because when you go into a genre, you can go into another subgenre, and you can add as much as you want, and you can go as deep in one topic and really analyze in depth. For the third question, I've used Padlet. This was actually the first time I used Padlet in this coursework. I feel like I should have used Padlet earlier in my coursework because it lays out everything so nicely and you could see everything really clearly at the same time. Padlet is also a drag and drop software where it is easy to use and beginner friendly also. And finally, currently, I'm using Loom. Loom is a software where it records your screen and you can also edit it in it. After using Loom for a while, I become more familiar with the software. One thing I really like about Loom is that you can record and edit right away. But the thing that I don't like about editing is that the timeline is really small and you can't zoom it in any way. It's also a really tough job to edit and it took me a really long time to get all these clips together. A good feature about Loom is that you can turn on captions and speed up your work, so you can work faster and more efficiently. You can select each word and edit it if it's wrong, but if it's correct, you can just press correct. If I share this video to other people, they can also comment it and share their thoughts, meaning it is also a collaborative software. So after using Loom for a while, I got pretty familiar with the functions and the tools, but I feel like Loom is not that beginner friendly and you need to have some experience before using it. This presentation that I'm presenting on is also made on Canva, and I'm currently using Loom to record my talking over the presentation. Overall, of integration of technologies, I feel like I did a pretty decent job of using a wide variety of softwares in my coursework. I will definitely keep improving and be more aware of the softwares I use next time, and not just use one software like just Canva or Google Sites all the way through.